Hello and welcome to this video. Today I will state my case for why I think that the Zeppelin or the airship industry could potentially establish itself in the near future as one of the most dominant and biggest cargo transporting industries in the world, and why I think it's actually a good thing, and that more countries and more companies should start looking towards this potential mode of transportation as a potential viable future option for its cargo transporting. Stay tuned. Okay, so here we have a chart. As you can see, here are the four most used cargo transport services available. So it's ocean shipping, like ships, air cargo, trucking, and rails, like trains. So we have two metrics here: how much tons are being transported annually, and how expensive it is per ton. So as you can see, definitely the most expensive one is air. The least expensive one is rail. However, the most convenient one is air, and the least convenient one is rail, because there are only so many rail tracks that you can use, and that's why most people actually transport by truck, because trucks have the sweet spot between being very available. You can drive basically anywhere in the world, and also it's relatively cheap. It's not as cheap as ocean or rail, but it's definitely cheaper than, for example, air. Then you'll also have ocean shipping, which is also very popular. It's the second most popular option. It is also a middle price. However, it is very available because 70% of the world is ocean, and you can transport obviously goods between continents, between vast distances. So it's also very, very heavily used. An airship would probably cost around 500 to 1,500 per ton. It depends on the design of the ship and different other metrics. So the airships again could be like a middle thing. They could be pretty expensive. However, they are much cheaper than airplanes. They fulfill the same role as airplanes. They're less fast. They're less fast, but they're faster than rail or trucking or even shipping, because they don't have to reload. They can just fly from one place to another, and they're also better for underdeveloped areas where there's not many roads or again rail. So it's just the most versatile option. You can use it anywhere you want, and it's cheaper than the airplane, and it's also not even that. It's only around 8 times slower than an airplane, but you can still it's still going to be much faster than truck, and then driving different goods somewhere and then having to reload them to rail or a ship. Now, a lot of people are very hesitant towards airships because if they hear the word Zeppelin or airship, they picture these great disasters that happened with airships in the early 20th century. For example, the Hindenburg disaster, which was very devastating for the airship industry and basically created this big fear around these big balloons in the sky, because obviously back then they were filled with stuff like hydrogen, which can be easily flammable. So what I would propose, and what these airship companies who want to build these airships for the future propose, is to fill them with helium, which is safer than, for example, hydrogen, and to slowly but surely build the infrastructure and build the airships in a way that they can transport more and more tons. So the technical side of the issue isn't there. Like you can build you can build a safer version and more effective version, than people back in the 20th century could build. Because back then, obviously, they didn't have the equipment and didn't have the resources necessarily to build something that is safe and fast and also, can fly. I mean, that just wasn't the case because, I mean, the height of the airship industry was before commercial airplanes. So it was very, very new, very, very new technology. So nowadays, it's much, much safer. So there isn't really a concern with safety. The airship industry could very well profit from niche markets or from countries which want to prioritize the reduction of carbon emissions. For example, a lot of countries in the West, like a lot of Western European countries, and also some other more developed countries, like for example Japan or other places, which generally just want to emit less CO2. Airships do in fact emit far less CO2 or other emissions than any other transportation system except maybe trains. Even though a lot of trains still emit a lot of CO2, for example, in poor places where they still use coal trains. So the airship industry could win in very niche markets, for example, remote regions where, for example, mining or logging camps or oil camps or whatever, in deserts and like the tundra in Canada or Siberia, where they don't have a lot of infrastructure to transport these goods, and they usually just rely on trucks or rails, for example. These airships could also make a difference because now they can just transport the goods directly from the camp to whatever customer needs these goods, and don't have to transport them to another place where they have to get repacked and redistributed. It'll be much easier and much more affordable, and it also could be used for a lot of other purposes. For example, humanitarian aid and logistics, where now you can just fly a Zeppelin into a conflict zone or a disaster zone where you can just drop ship these goods. Even though airplanes would be faster, they would also be more expensive, and you can transport a lot more with just these Zeppelins. Now, even though there are a lot of hopes and potential positive or pros for this industry, there are also a lot of challenges. For example, the speed. Yes, it is faster than shipping or trucking or getting goods from trains, but it also is far slower than airplanes, and it also has a lot of problems. It could have a lot of problems with the weather because these Zeppelins aren't very heavy, or they won't be as heavy as, for example, airplanes, because they're built to float. The actual technology or the physics behind Zeppelins is that they're lighter than the air, so they can just take off. So the problem would be that they could be very prone to maybe crashing in very stormy conditions, or they could just have problems with the wind. They could be slowed down very easily. So you'd have to plan the routes beforehand. You can't just the routes are going to be more restricted, and also you can't always rely on the Zeppelin. So it'd be a kind of maybe seasonal, or it won't be as reliable as other modes of transportation, for example. And also you'd have to build a lot of infrastructure for these Zeppelins. You'd have to build massive engineering spaces where you can even build them. You'd have to create repair spaces. You'd have to create refill stations in the world. You'd have to create docks where they can safely land. And also you'd have to invest a lot of money into the actual project. Like you have to convince people that the Zeppelin is actually going to be able to be used commercially. So there's a lot of challenges, and it's not going to be easy. But I think in the long term, more and more companies are going to try to shift their attention towards that mode of transportation because it is cheaper than airplanes. It's very very accessible, and also it just offers a wide range of possibilities for the transport, and also in certain cases it's even cheaper than, for example, trucking, train, or shipping. as you can see in this diagram, the airship isn't the cheapest, it isn't the fastest, and it can't carry the most tons, but I still think it will become a valuable player just because, as you can see in this diagram, it basically offers the versatility and the just ability to go anywhere in the world, just like the airplane, for far less of the cost. Yes, it'll be slower, but as you can see, it basically is an airplane that is much, 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 much cheaper, has far less CO2 emissions. It's probably going to be advertised and promoted by a lot of governments that want to see a green, or like organizations like the World Economic Forum, which basically, for possibly shady, possibly like very authoritarian reasons, want to see a greener world. But the key point is that I think the airship will become a very, very valuable asset in the cargo industry, just because of, again, the versatility and the fact that you can literally go anywhere in the world with the airship. And it'll also be very good for underdeveloped regions. That's basically my reasoning. I hope you can understand that. I hope you have found out something in this video, and maybe you agree, maybe you don't. I don't know. Leave your opinion in the comments, and see you in a possible next video.